From the far reaches of space to the darkest places on Earth, join us as we explore the haunted, the cryptid, the creepy, and more. Exposing Reality Radio presents the Spectral Wolfpack Show, your paranormal nightmare, with your host, Alexander Bobolinsky.
What's up, Wolfpack? We got an awesome show lined up tonight. For anyone that missed it, we started doing a pre-podcast live stream on the YouTube, Spectral Wolfpack Paranormal YouTube, and we're going to do, Ghost Box and also get some questions for the guests of the podcast. So we're going to be doing that every Wednesday night, starting about an hour and a half before the podcast. For anyone that doesn't know, we've been working on Madhouse, the paranormal documentary about our trip up to Madison Seminary, and that will be coming out in April. And we're doing a little premiere and investigation at Madison Seminary on April 6th. So anyone in the Ohio area who wants to come, message me on Facebook or anything like that. It's going to be a lot of fun. Anything else? We got the Alabama Paranormal Bigfoot and Paranormal and Bigfoot Conference that I'll be speaking at in February 9th. So anyone in Alabama should definitely come out and hang out. We're gonna have a good time, and I'll be down to go to some locations afterward and do some ghost box or whatever you guys want to do. So tonight, guys, we have a very special guest. Super excited to talk to him. We've got, and I hope I always slaughter everyone's last names, as you guys know, but I'm pretty sure I got it. Daniel Roberge. I probably slaughtered it. The creator of EchoVox, EchoVox Touch, his new app, and many more. And he's definitely an innovator in the ITC digital realm. Let's bring him right in. I want to get talking to him. Daniel, what's up, man?
Hey, how's it going? You can call me Danny.
Oh, sorry, man. Yeah, you told me that. Danny.
No worries. And you did fine in the last name. You nailed it.
Good. How are you doing tonight, man? How's things been going?
Good. Just enjoying myself. It's a nice warm night, and just kicking back on the porch right now, talking to you. So looking forward to it.
Awesome, man. I'm looking forward to it too. I've been excited. I've seen some old videos from you and everything. I've used EchoVox, and I gotta say, EchoVox is one of the only apps that like everyone I talk to about loves it, and like say that it's one of the only apps that they trust for ITC, and because there's no trickery or gimmicks or anything like that, and it's awesome.
Awesome. I think you described the attitude towards it now, which blows me away. I mean, if anybody thinks it was easy to get to where you could say the sentence that you just did, it wasn't easy.
I'm sure, man. I'm sure, and I'm excited to learn about all of that. I read a little bit about your story on the Ghost in the Machine on Narratively.
Right, Narratively. Yeah.
Yeah, man, it's quite a story. I guess can we start when you were younger and were involved in Ouija boards and things like that with your friends? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. Before I go into the linear storyline of that, I think the overall hindsight 20/20 kind of thing.
Yeah.
Especially now being my age and looking back at my life and knowing the things that I know now and everything, it's very strange the role that the whatever it is, the paranormal, for lack of a better word, but the other side, the what we can't see, how it has presented itself to me, even from a very young age, meaning like some of my earliest memories, and many things that happened in my life. And then when I was a teenager, I did the typical, growing up in New England in the 80s and listening to a lot of, Black Sabbath and Metallica and being a metalhead and, smoking weed and dropping some acid and all the stuff teenagers would do up, where I grew up. And we ended up, getting into like Ouija boards and stuff. Yeah. And, the weird part is that we just happened to get into doing Ouija boards in a really old, New England farmhouse built in the 1700s, about 300 feet away from a place called, everybody get your Google out, 300 feet away from a place called the Goffstown Historical Society in Goffstown, New Hampshire. And if you look around a little bit on Google, you should be able to find the little stories about it. It's actually a very well-documented haunt. It's been in a few books and stuff like that, the place that was right next to my buddy John's house. Well, that's where we just happened to screw around with this stuff. And a lot of wild things happened. Some stories happened in that place, in that house, that I wouldn't even bother to tell you, because even though you're in the paranormal and your listeners are into that, it would sound like total baloney. But it's true. And crazy things, people getting thrown across rooms, and full body apparitions, and just really crazy stuff. Now, just a disclaimer, not all of it happened when there was LSD involved. Just a disclaimer, there was definitely people there that, weren't sure. There was, a lot of, and some of it was before that. I mean, we hung out in this kid's house from like 7th grade till our senior year in high school. So a lot of things happened. We're talking about, 5-6 years. And then when I grew older, I've always been into music. I've always been a musician, and that was always my focus. And I was always more interested in chasing girls and playing music and partying, having a good time, whatever. And when I was older, I moved to California and did that whole thing. I'm going to go to California and play in a band, and I learned a lot. And I learned a lot about music. And again, my band practice in a building in San Francisco in the basement of a very old building that used to be a bowling alley. And it was so haunted, and so many weird things happened there. We found two, not once, but twice, found dead hookers in the bathroom.
Oh, my God.
About 2 years apart, yeah, saw multiple. It was a really crazy place, but a lot of really crazy things happened there, too. Full-body apparitions, voices, everything. But I never paid attention to it then. In those days, I like I said, I was too focused on the other thing. Being a 20-something-year-old kid living in San Francisco in the 90s was pretty fun. I didn't have time to think about it. Yeah, I didn't have time to think about the dead people. And, and then I moved up North California, and I lived in a very haunted house built in the early 1900s. And that place was creepy and crazy, and a lot of crazy things happened there, but I also ignored them. And then you fast forward shortly after that, and I'm skipping many, many years here for the listeners. Many years. Many, many things happened. I moved back to the East Coast with my family, and one day my oldest son and I decided that we were going to go ghost hunting. He wanted to go do something, and I wanted something that we could do together, and so we grabbed some little handheld recorders. I don't remember what they were, but I had them laying around, for music production and stuff. They were like my little practice recorders. I'd bring a band practice, but I had them. So we took those, and we went to a cemetery, and the first time I ever did an EVP session intentionally, I had a reply in the first 3 seconds, and it wasn't one voice, it was 2 voices. And they're the same voices that I still get on my EchoVox. Wow. And they're actually the voices that you guys get on your EchoVox often also, which is pretty weird to me. I've heard it on thousands of other recordings. It's the same voices, but I have recordings of their voices dating all the way back to what I'm talking about now, which would be maybe 2006.
Yeah.
Okay, and it's the same. It's a male voice and it's a female voice. And if I played them for you now, you guys that are familiar with EchoVox would go, "Oh yeah, I know them." Yeah, and I don't know who they are. I don't know what they want. So anyway, so I guess the veil to me has always been very thin, as far as whatever that means. And I know it means different things to other people. And where I'm at now, is I've come so far with this whole thing, as far as being deep down into places that no person is supposed to go, and doing things that I don't know if people are supposed to do, to being to where I am now, which is I cannot use it. I cannot have any of this in my life. The most I can do is what we're doing right now. If anybody follows me on Facebook, you might notice that I don't post on Facebook for years at a time. Maybe only when an app comes out or something like that. I don't lead a public existence. I don't do paranormal anything anymore. It's not a part of my life, and that's the way it has to be. So
Yeah.
I hope that was a really crazy answer to your question.
No, I appreciate it. I want to go back to first. So about like how you said, in hindsight, like how everything added up to now and everything, and about those crazy things happening back then. Like I totally believe they happened because I've had some crazy things too. That why do you think that crazy things like that happen when there's no camera around? Like that's when it always seems to be the craziest.
Because none of this has anything to do with the cameras or the baloney or the TV shows or sharing evidence or any of the things that anybody's doing.
Yeah.
It's all way bigger than that. It's very existential. It has to do with the nature of reality. It's not about gods and demons and things that people invent in their heads. It's about the fabric of whatever the universe is. And I've always felt that my thoughts were not private to myself,
Mm-hmm.
that my life was not private to myself, that I was living a movie. And I know everybody listening can relate to that.
Yeah, totally.
And one day I was probably, I don't know, maybe 12 years old, 11 or 12 years old. And I used to be afraid of the dark my whole life, deathly afraid of the dark, and no feet hanging out of the covers, none of that. And one night I was laying there in bed, and I've always had a hard time falling asleep too. I've always been an insomniac, and I was laying there, and the hallway door was open to my bedroom. My parents' bedroom was directly across the hall from me. We lived in a small, like, New England ranch-style house, so everybody was very close. And it was a brightly lit, as bright as a hallway is going to be, right there. It's a 3-bedroom ranch. If anybody knows the type of house I'm talking about, the 3 bedrooms at one end, a hallway down to the kitchen and the living room.
Mm-hmm.
And I was laying there in bed, and I mean, that's what I mean by the hindsight 2020. This story in particular, when looking back on it, being the guy that created EchoVox and handheld, ITC, I guess, for lack of a better thing, being me now, it's even crazier looking back on it. But I was laying there, and I was just kind of just spacing out, like, you do when you're just laying in bed, and I was just looking into the hallway.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember what I was thinking about or whatever, but all of a sudden, there was like a dark spot, almost like a sunspot on your eye, kind of, in the hallway. Like, when you look at a lamp and you have that weird thing, except it kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
And I was very, very seldom in my life, as you can tell, I probably already said 50,000 words, and we've only been going for a few minutes. I'm never at a loss for words. Well, I had nothing to say. I was just laying there, almost paralyzed, but not like sleep paralysis or anything, but just laying there, like, bewildered at what I was looking at. And this thing grew up and up and up, down to the floor and up towards the ceiling, dark, 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 dark.
Mm-hmm.
And so it reached all the way to the floor, and it reached all the way to the top of the door frame. The right side of the door frame, I could see the left side of the hallway, and it was like somebody standing 80% into the door frame. And then the outline of a man was clear, and that man was wearing a hat, and it was a tall hat.
Yeah.
And he stood there, and the man in the tall hat stood in that hallway, and I'm shaking and getting goosebumps telling you this story right now. I sat there and I looked at him, and I was shaking, and I was shaking, and I was shaking, and all I could think is, why in the hell is Abraham Lincoln standing here? Why is Abraham Lincoln standing there? And then I screamed, Dad, there's a tall man with a hat on in the hallway. My dad, of course, comes out with a baseball bat.
Yeah.
But there, he knew there was nobody there because he could see. But I was hysterical. Now, I don't know. I'm assuming that people listening know the legend of the man with the hat.
Mm-hmm.
Man with the hat, the shadow figure. If you don't, you can just Google man in the hat, and you'll know what I'm talking about, why this story is significant. I have seen the man in the hat 35-something years ago. And my life has gone the way that it's gone now. And I don't know who that guy was. I don't know if it was somebody from somewhere that was looking at me and said, yeah, that's the guy. He's got to do this and he's got to do that to figure out how to do this and do that. And someday he's going to do this and do that. And he's going to blow his knee out. He's not going to be able to work anymore. He's going to be laying there, and then he's going to think about how to do this, and he's going to do that, and then he's going to do this. And then we're going to accomplish this. That's kind of how I look at it. That's the only explanation I can think of. Because I don't believe that time is linear. I don't believe that everything happens just one time. And everything makes more sense when it's over. So I kind of feel like nothing makes sense until you unzip the glove that's life. And then it all makes sense. You know, so it's kind of futile to try to figure it out right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's some deep shit. And man.
Absolutely.
And I love like you said, I mean, years later, so you busted your knee out, and then you were living in a tent for a while, right?
Yeah, my ex-girlfriend and I, at the time, we couldn't afford to, have the lights on and pay the rent, or, eat and do this. And I said, you know what? I've had it. I'm going to kill myself if I got to stay in this house one more day and watch my kids. My kids were hungry, or I'm sitting there starving because there was only enough food to feed the kids, and because I wasn't working. Yeah. I wasn't working. My knee exploded. It didn't happen on the job, so there was nothing I could do. I was screwed, man. And my job of a few years was gone, and it wasn't even that great of a job to begin with. It was a great job, fun job, but it wasn't a high-paying job, because in the wintertime, when you're a stagehand, it's pretty dead around the holidays and everything. So the wintertime destroyed my family, and the best thing that I could come up with was it was the summertime. It was about end of June. Put everything in a storage and go to Walmart and spend a couple $100 on a tent and some camping gear or whatever, and we headed out to a campground, and we stayed out in that campground for about 5 or 6 weeks. And I had just launched Spirit Box, just launched it when that happened, like 2 weeks before that happened.
Wow.
Every day I'd leave the tent and I'd walk up the hill to go get some free Wi-Fi, and I'd look at my sales and try to see how things were going, if I had feedback and if I had questions and things like that, and then it just went on from there.
Man, that's wild. And so when your knee blew out, that's pretty much when you started designing apps, right? Was when that happened?
Well, I started making apps as a hobby. There's another application out there in the world called Caustic, which is a audio application, music app. And I loved it. I was always using it at the time. In fact, that's why I got my first Android tablet, was just to use that app. And I knew how to make sound packs for it. So that's how Big Beard started, was making sound pack expansion packs for this other software. And then one day I was laying in bed, I was watching Ghost Adventures or Ghost Hunters or something was on TV. It was like the middle of the day. I was waiting to go pick up my kids from school, and I couldn't really get out of my crutches and knee brace and all that for very long at all. So it'd be like I'd hobble down to the kids' school to pick them up all the time, and hobble back. I couldn't drive or nothing. It was a real mess at the time, man. But I was just laying there and dreading the hobble to go down, and I had my phone in my hand, and they were using a ghost box, like whatever the hell it was. They were using some ghost box. And I said, oh, man, there must be an app that does that. And I opened up Google Play, and I searched ghost box app, and it didn't exist. So, and then 3-4 days later, it did.
That's awesome. Man, that's great. And then,
like, and, you know, I didn't think anybody was going to like it, man. I put it up for 99 cents. I made it for me, and I already had an app page up selling, you know, $1.50 apps. So I was like, oh, whatever. I didn't think it was. I thought it was going to be a fringe thing, and I was a little bit worried that it was going to hurt my credibility with the music. You know, it's really weird, man. Really, really weird. And it turns out that my caustic packs are actually legendary now. I took them off the market, and I got over 500 emails from people begging me to put them back on the market, so I put them back for free.
Nice. That's awesome. Wow. And so, and then over the years, you know, you've made, you know, you got Spirit Vox, Spiritone, Spirit Phone, is it Spirit Phone, and then Phantom Vox?
Yeah, well, there's a whole progression, like the way that they move, and it's like if you go to my YouTube, Big Beard Audio, and you go way back and you just kind of skim through the videos, you can watch the progression, because, you know, before EchoVox, there was Spirit Voice. Mm-hmm. Before Spirit Voice, there was Spirit Vox. Everything led to something like, what if I did this? What if I did that? What if I did this? And then I used Spirit Voice with Spirit Phone, which was the first real-time EVP recording app. Mm-hmm. And I ran those two together through some, and then I said, oh, what happens if I run it? Because I'm a musician, and I like noisy music, and I like trippy music, and I like guitar feedback and stuff like that. So I said, oh, I wonder what happens if I, instead of using headphones, I plug this through a speaker, and then voila, that file that you heard on the Narratively thing, that was the first EchoVox recording ever. That's what happened. Growls, something said my name, all kinds of stuff.
Wow.
You know?
That's awesome. That leads me to a question from one of the people in the chats from the live stream earlier. They said they wanted to know what the scariest and the clearest thing to ever come through one of your apps was. That you, I guess one of the scariest and clearest.
Oh man. Whew. Well, first of all, I got to say there's very many.
Yeah, I'm sure
there's a lot. I have destroyed recordings.
Yeah.
I've destroyed recordings before that were so awful. Boy. Well, a lot of the stuff I heard at Pennhurst that made it into the Pennhurst movie is pretty disturbing. But the stuff that didn't make it into the Pennhurst, the stuff that didn't make it into the Pennhurst movie that I left out. Some of that was pretty disturbing because it was an abuser describing abuse, and it was pretty gross and pretty weird. Mm-hmm. And there's just so many. But actually, I would like to tell this quick little story. The scariest. Well, actually, two stories, and please remind me that I had two stories. One is just recently here at my house. Going back to what I was saying about not, using my stuff anymore. I just put on a new app, so I had to use it a little bit to make a video and stuff. Mm-hmm. That led to some weird things. And I was here in my studio, and I was working on some music. I was doing something that had nothing to do with the paranormal whatsoever. And I caught the craziest EVP, one of the craziest EVPs that I've ever caught. It's clear as day. I've played it for a bunch of people that don't know anything about the paranormal. They don't even know that I have anything to do with the paranormal, and they know what it says. And it says, "You scared the dead."
Wow.
It's a voice very clear. It says, "You scared the dead," and I don't know what to make of that. And the second story is. I used to do high gain experiments, high gain audio, like multi-stage gain boost. So running through multiple amps and boosting the noise floor up to hideous, disgusting levels. Mm-hmm. A lot of people can't hear things the way I hear them because I'm partially deaf, and a lot of noises, a lot of high frequencies, and other things get muffled out, and I'm able to listen to really horrible noise that would bother a lot of other people, and I could listen through it. So I was doing experiments like that, and I was catching some really wild stuff. I'm pretty sure I've eavesdropped on other universes. Like, I've heard other realities. I've just eavesdropped on other things. And this one particular experiment, I was in a really horrible situation in my life, and where I lived, again, like I was saying earlier, a lot of these places I've lived were very paranormally active. Well, I lived in a place called the Breakup House. It was already known for being called the Breakup House, and for many years before I lived there, and I ended up living there, of course, I had a breakup. And I was doing high-gain experiments there, and I had the initial setting on it all was being recorded by a Sony Handycam. And I wasn't going to listen to the Sony Handycam audio, but just something hit me. It was unattended. Nobody was home. I left it recording for 3 or 4 hours, and I came back, and I just skipped. It's going to skip through. Mm-hmm. Well, I started playing it, and at about the 122nd mark, the first something. So what's that? Then nothing. Another 120 seconds. 2 minutes later, something else a little more clear, but I can't tell what it is, but there's definitely an anomaly in this recording, and it's getting louder. Getting close to the third set of 2 minutes, and I'm starting to notice that it's breathing. And it's getting louder and louder, and it's like that, like creepy.
Wow.
And I'm listening, and that goes on for about maybe 15 seconds. And as the last breath is inhaled, there's a long pause, and then it just goes, suck my dick. Just like that. Clear, but the thing is that, the weird thing is that hallway where I recorded that was this hallway it was between me and my ex's bedroom and the hallway to get downstairs. And there was a million times when I walked through that hallway muttering under my breath, frustrated with this woman. And I'm sure I muttered, I get like mad, like,
yeah,
just going through a breakup, I'm sure many people listening can understand. So I don't know if that was like my energy or what, but there were demons in that house, man. It was crazy. But that recording was so disturbing. I put it away for a long time. I actually recently just found it, and then I deleted it. I thought it was gone, and then I found it on a hard drive, and I said, no way. I listened to it one more time, and then I got rid of it. It's not anything. Back when I found it, I played it for a few people, and I think it was on my Facebook, and it's just too, like I said, I could sit here all night and tell you guys about crazy EVPs and voices that just come out of nowhere. I mean, when I stopped using my stuff as hardcore as I was, I didn't need to turn it on anymore. So,
mm-hmm. Wow.
And people around me would be like, "You hear that?" Like, what? Gee.
Yeah. That brings me to a question in the chat right now that kind of goes off. Dennis is wondering, have you ever spoke to yourself, or you think you spoke to yourself from like another time or dimension or timeline or?
Man, I don't know. As far as I'm concerned, oh jeez, getting to do these interviews is getting to be harder and harder and harder for me. The older I get and the more I learn, because they really need to be 6-hour-long discussion about the nature of reality. I do think, but maybe all I do is talk to myself.
Yeah.
Maybe that's all that I do. As far as I know, my subconscious is actually aware of everything and is actually conscious, and my dummied down idiot consciousness is just the show.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe when I turn on that EchoVox, I'm just talking to that subconscious of mine that knows what the hell I'm doing here and knows what this is all about, but it ain't allowed to tell me because that's the rules of the game. And there are rules.
Mm-hmm.
I've broken the rules. I was, I don't know, made to, chosen to, forced to, asked to break a rule. And it was a rule that I think even Thomas Edison was aware of that needed to be broken and was going to happen sooner or later. And it was an accident. That's what a lot of people in this world, in this scene, a lot of people that, I'm not just talking about app developers or whatever, but a lot of people that make things to present to people in such fields as the paranormal and such, they sit around one day and they scratch their head and go, how can I make some money? How can I be cool? How can I be famous? How can I be popular? How can I be good? It doesn't work like that. The best rock star is the reluctant rock star. The best inventor is the one that dies poor. It's not about that. And I never sat around and decided that I was going to do this. I never cared if I did it or not. A big part of me wishes that I hadn't, and there's nothing I can do about it now. So in a lot of ways, I paid a huge, enormous price for that little app that people use. Some take seriously and others don't. But nobody will ever understand what it was like to be on the other side of it. Because every time you turn that on, and I dare say anytime you turn on a digital ITC app, you're using a little part of Danny, my brain. And there's no way around that. And that all comes back to me one way or another. And it's not all negative. I don't mean to sound like negative Nancy, because it's not. It comes back to me in bountiful, plentiful ways, and I feel that I'm protected to a certain extent by whatever it is on the other side of the veil.
Wow. Very, very deep and intense stuff, and all
that protection goes away.
Yeah.
The second I turn my stuff on, I almost got assaulted 2 blocks from my house 2 days after doing the only run I ever did of EchoVox Touch.
Really?
Some man came out of his house screaming at me, thought my dog pooped on his lawn and didn't. I just stood there smiling because I'm way past violent confrontations in my life. Now I just, okay, sorry. But I think he was on something. And he was violent and freaky, but he was like a demon.
Yeah. And
I recognized him. Whatever a demon is, whatever that, they're like non-player characters that they come to jam you up. Mm-hmm. And the name of the game is your reaction. So it's like playing a game. It's like playing Call of Duty, and you got to react to what happens. And that's what life is. At least that's what I think. And it's all about how you react, what button you press, and what action you choose. And now I could have chose to confront that demon, and I could have gotten my teeth knocked in. But that guy came to me immediately after opening a door that I don't open anymore. And that's why I close it back up, and I go back to my life full of a pregnant kitty that I got laying here next to me, and my dog, and the people that I love, and the things that I focus on. You know, and I leave the rest up to you guys, because you guys don't have that stigma that I do. You know what I mean? I think that's why I have to be separate. I made it. I don't use it. I give it to you. You didn't make it. You can use it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's wild, man. I'm having a lot of synchronicities, too, right now with a lot of stuff you're saying. It's freaking me out. Plus, all the dogs outside started howling during that story. But, Kim wanted to know in the chat, have you ever had an entity or anything affect you physically, like making you sleep? She said that's something that's happening to her currently. And
making you sleep?
I guess she's saying it's making her tired all the time or draining her.
Well, I would say the first thing that you need to do is look at about 80 million other things that are probably making you tired. It's probably not a spirit. So maybe you have a vitamin deficiency, or you need to have a cup of coffee later in the day, or maybe you should cut out sugar from your diet. It's probably not a spirit. Next question.
That makes sense with because there was a time where I thought that was happening to me, and then I realized I have sleep apnea, and I'm getting that taken
that's
care
the
of.
problem with That's the problem with a question like that. There's 80 million other things that it would be before you get to the it's a spirit making me tired.
Mm-hmm.
You could have mono. You could have, like I said, a vitamin deficiency. You could have too much sugar in the morning, and now you're crashing. A million things. There's a million things before you jump. Does it sound crazy to you guys listening? I want you to think what I'm saying sounds crazy, because you should think about it for a minute. Because it's hysteria that people, television and stuff, are putting into your head. There's no spirits running around making y'all tired. You live in a toxic world. You're lucky to be alive. You're surrounded by chemicals. You're eating food full of preservatives and GMOs. You're living an unhealthy life. So if you don't feel good, don't assume that it's a demon doing it to you. If a bad thing happens in your life, maybe you made a poor decision. It's possible. So a lot of people need to step back and be real about what we're thinking about. And it's not their fault. It's people aren't taught to think about something. They're just taught to, well, hey, Zach Bagans said that a spirit was making him sick. So I ate some Taco Bell. I got the runs, and it must have been a demon.
No, I feel you. And another thing a lot of people don't know about, the high EMF in their house can cause all kinds of, bad feelings, hallucinations. Even.
Radon. Yeah, radon, too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, radon will make you go crazy. People have murdered their families because of high radon counts.
Wow. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Someone was wondering, do you have any...
chat. Yeah, I like your chat questions. Keep them coming. These are great.
Do you have any video ITC apps or anything like that out? Someone was wondering.
Well, I went down that road for about 3 years, and it's a dead end. So, meaning that it takes too much equipment outside of a phone to be effective, because of the lack of a reliable feedback loop system. If you go onto Big Beard Audio or Big Beard Studios, whatever, on YouTube, and you look through, you should be able to find some video ITC experiments. And a lot of that was based in me and Andrew Openlander of Chicago Spirit Wave. We used to collaborate trying to figure out some things like that. And at the end of the day, you need too much random data that needs to be outside, and you need too much analog data that needs to exist outside of the device. And it's too open to trickery and baloney. So if I were you guys, I would never, ever, ever in 1,000 million years trust any video ITC application ever, unless you personally make it and know that there's no way that it can be trickery, because it's just telling a computer to do this and do that, all on the inside. And that doesn't work. Like EchoVox would not work if it was all on the inside, but it spits the noises out the speaker and comes back and has that open microphone, and it creates the feedback loop. And that's where the quantum mechanics come into play, because that's unpredictability. That's quarks being on and off at the same time. And it's just there's a lot going on. And when you close a loop, you lose that.
Yeah.
That's what the Great Pyramids, man, they were an open feedback system. All of that, all around the world, was using the Earth's resonance and ley lines, and stone and angles and dimensions to create an echo, a resonance, and manipulate the energy of the planet itself. So, it's all relative, of course, to different scales, if that makes any sense.
Definitely. Very interesting. Joey wanted to know, we kind of might have already went over this a little bit with talking about some of the sessions, but he wanted to know, what's the best spirit box session you ever had? I'm sure that's not really, I'm sure you've had tons of great.
Yeah, that's impossible. I've been some really wild places with some, really wild history. And if you really want to know, I only chose, back when I did videos, I only chose the most mind-blowing stuff to put on my YouTube. So there's hundreds of videos there. So if you want to just go find the YouTube, Big Beard Audio, and watch those videos, I mean, I chose, there's tons of stuff up there. I mean, tons. And also, if you go on SoundCloud and you search EchoVox, and I think EchoVox 2 and Spirit Box, I think Spirit Box is one too. I got a few SoundCloud channels. Those recordings have, what do you call it, timed comments, and some of that stuff is just mind-blowing, man. Mind-blowing. I mean, it's thousands, hundreds of hours of recording. So, but I have thousands of hours, so I only chose the best stuff to put up. So, to answer your question, that's the best thing to do is to go to the YouTube or whatever. Yeah.
What would, out of some of the locations you've been, what would be some of your favorite locations?
Well, Pennhurst, of course. I mean, I bothered to make the movie. Pennhurst was a really wild experience, and something that I would never do again. And there's a movie on my, it's like 45 minutes long, EchoVox versus Pennhurst. Anybody listening, you want to watch a cool paranormal movie, go to YouTube, search EchoVox VS period Pennhurst, EchoVox versus Pennhurst. And that was just, man, that stuff in that movie was witnessed by, a dozen other well-known paranormal researchers, and the things that happened in there. Somebody would be running one EchoVox or a session on one building, and I would be somewhere else, and we'd get similar results, and just, it was a really wild time. Also, the Payne House in Massachusetts was a really interesting place there, just because I think I felt something like affect my emotions there. I don't know how to explain it, but something affected my emotions there. I don't know how to explain that, but that was a pretty wild place. And then, of course, the Valley Street Cemetery in Manchester, New Hampshire, where if you go to my YouTube, you'll find that's where EchoVox was born. That was my testing ground. That's where I went. I talked to a ghost of a female that was buried there a long time ago. Her name's Sarah Hope, and the original EchoVox sessions are all based around Sarah Hope. And we learned so much about Sarah Hope. And then the Manchester Paranormal Research Society, or whatever the hell they were called, he went and did went to the town hall and did a bunch of research on this Sarah Hope person who was buried there, and we found out there was 2 people in the grave. One was a baby, that she died because something happened to her stomach, and all these things were already in the EchoVox recording. So you can go back and listen to that. But, I loved graveyards. Just being in New England, there's so many old graveyards. I loved it. I spent way too much time in them. I don't do it anymore.
Yeah, I'm from Alabama. We got a lot of really cool ones here too that I love going to. Matt was wondering, have you ever had, or do you think that animal spirits ever come through any of the devices or apps?
Animals?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Dogs have come through for myself and for many other people.
Mm-hmm.
Kitty cats. Absolutely. I've heard a cat meow, and I've heard a cat purr on EchoVox recording. Both mine. Well, no, I never heard one purr on my recording, but I've heard one purr on somebody else's recording. And they claimed somebody I trust, and there was no cat.
Mm-hmm.
I think animals have spirits. You can't be alive and not have spirit. A spirit is an energy force. So anything alive has a spirit. A tree has a spirit. Everything has a spirit. And then you can't kill it. Energy can't be created nor destroyed. So I got this cat next to me. If I suddenly did something horrible and just murdered this cat right here next to me, it wouldn't just cease to exist, would it? I mean, where would its energy go?
Exactly. I've been seeing one around my house, and my fiance has as well. It's like this little black and white cat we've been seeing. She even saw it at someone else's house. It's like been kind of something that's been happening the last couple of months. So.
Well, I lived in an apartment where somebody, a couple different people mentioned to me, they're like, man, whenever I come over to your house, I always feel like I'm going to let the cat out. But I didn't have a cat. And I'd be like, I know. We always say that. And we hear scratching and all that. And we joke about, like, oh, we have, like, a cat that lives in the house secretly and only comes out. But it was like that. It was so I do believe that animals can haunt. But it's also the other way around, you guys. You have to remember that you live in a reality that you don't understand. So you don't know what kind of impression your kitty cat leaves on your hallway. The 5 trillion times it walks up and down your hallway in its lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe the cat isn't there anymore, but your hallway just really remembers.
Mm-hmm.
It's part of the hallway's vibe now. At 2 o'clock in the morning, it just knows that cat's just going to walk through to go get its cat food and take a poop, and then go back to lay down next to your head. The hallway knows, so the hallway just anticipates it, and the quantum mechanics that make that hallway exist, just let it happen. The cat doesn't need to be there anymore. The cat's irrelevant.
Yeah.
You know, I read a great story recently that actually kind of freaked me out, man. Do you know anything about quantum computers?
Not much.
All right, well, they're starting to build these quantum computers now, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And they use something called qubits. And a qubit is a weird little thing. And a qubit can be on or off, like a 0 or a 1, so they're trying it. But the other weird thing is that a qubit can also be 2 places at once. So, meaning it could be, I can have a qubit in me, and it's also in you.
Yeah.
So a lot of us are sharing the same particles, and we're all made of the same, literally, not like the same piece of something, but the same piece. And so they're building these quantum computers. But the problem with these qubits is that they're very prone to error. So, you know, you can't build a computer processor on something that's prone to error. You need error correction, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, what they've found out and what they've verified now through these experiments and everything else, these brilliant quantum physicists have discovered that there's a side effect to the error correction that you need to use to make these quantum computers work optimal. And that side effect is, drumroll, reality. And you can Google this. This is something that was just discovered in the last maybe 3 weeks. The side effect to quantum computing error correction is reality.
Wow.
It's the basic equivalent to reality. So we could all be living on somebody's Pentium 89.
Exactly.
On the planet Exterior 19 in the year 18,076. So who knows? We could actually be on the processor. We could be on the processor of somebody's toaster.
Mm-hmm.
And we're a side effect of that toaster's processor.
That's so wild.
I bet there's people listening to this now like, man, I'm getting way more than I bargained for here.
I mean, that's definitely something I've thought about recently. The whole, like living in something like that, but it's just our reality. But we're like, it's so mind blowing to start thinking about. You're like, can go crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, we got another question. Cheryl wanted to know, have you ever thought something and like a spirit answered you, or you got an answer on the EchoVox, or?
I've done so many times.
Yeah.
I've had to get an answer before you finish the thought.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever done an EchoVox session and you're doing EchoVox or whatever, and then you're looking at your phone and you're about to read something and it says what you're about to read?
Yep. Definitely.
That kind of thing. Yeah, absolutely. I don't know. I don't have an explanation, guys. I'm sorry. I don't. That's the thing is I've been saying this for 6-7 years. I can't explain any of it. I'm sorry. People say, how does EchoVox work? I say, I don't know. Like, I can tell you the mechanics, but why does it shouldn't. Nobody should be answering us. Nobody should be telling me how many fingers I'm holding up.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Stephanie says she has a crazy question. Do you think that trees are alive and can communicate with us?
Communicate, I don't know. Trees are alive. That's not about if I think they're alive. Trees are alive. I think maybe she's asking if they're sentient.
Sentient, yeah.
Am I sentient? I think that they probably are. Actually, they've proven that plants have consciousness and they get nervous and they know when something's happening to them. But I think that what they are is more akin to a part of a larger neural network. So, like, if the Earth is a giant brain, then trees and stuff like that would be like a part of its neural network, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like a giant, like I think probably all oak trees and maple trees and everything, they can all kind of vibe with each other and know what's going on, but it probably takes them 16 years to utter a syllable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
That's wild. I wanted to know, too, and before we close out, I definitely want you to tell us about EchoVox Touch, but I wanted to know, like, have you ever had any experiences with, like, Bigfoot or any kind of cryptid or monster, or do you believe in them? Because I do a lot of that stuff as well.
Well, you know, I would actually, if you could do me a favor and tomorrow follow up with me and send me a message on Facebook, I'd like to get a video to you. My girlfriend actually has a video that one of her best friends, who lived in Deltona, Florida, she was outside of her house and they were doing Glide, the app Glide.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a video app or whatever.
Yeah.
And they were talking on it, and her friend was sitting outside smoking a cigarette, and there's like this, it's just outside their house, you can see like the lawn. And some strange, otherworldly being runs through the shot. I've watched this video 1,000 times. It's definitely something with legs. It's not real, like as in, like, it's not an animal. It's moving too fast. It's really bizarre. It's definitely the weirdest video I've ever seen that I know 100% is not fake, because I know the people that it came from. I know the place. I know these people wouldn't even have the technical know-how to begin. They wouldn't even have the imagination to begin to think of faking something like this. So I'm going to send you that video. I'd like to see what you think of it.
That's
it though. That's the sole extent of my...
I would love to see that. Yeah, I mean... Okay, so let's... For the last couple minutes, I know we could have continued going on, like, about all this stuff, because it's all... Like, there's just so much, and it goes so deep. But, I mean, tell us about EchoVox Touch and the new app.
Well, I'm really excited about the prospects of it. Now, Andrew Openlander, who I mentioned earlier, and we, years ago in Chicago, were collaborating on these electronics. Like, he builds great ghost boxes. And I was working with him to make this thing that I had this idea for called a whisper board or a whisper box. And we built them using brass rods, Tesla coil radios. If you don't know what that is, just Google it. It's a crystal radio. And it was kind of like a combination of a ghost box and a Ouija board and a theremin, kind of. Mm-hmm. And they were really cool, man. I mean, those things, just building them and testing them, blew our minds. And I recorded the noises, and I wanted to do an app version of it. So I built something called the Phantom Box, which is an app out there you guys can all use. It was the first touch-based, ghost box app. And I put that out, and, it never really caught on. The noises are very abstract, and it works great, but it's very, it's not going to just say, hello, very clear. It's more like a whispery, you have to review your audio. People are lazy. Don't be lazy. Review your audio backwards, forward, slow, everything. People don't want to do that, so they don't use Sandbox so much. But anyway, now fast forward, I've had many, many opportunities to talk to people that use EchoVox, to think about this, to think about that. I think the touch aspect of that Phantom Box and those whisper boards was huge, man. Huge. The physical contact. I think one of the reasons why EchoVox works so well and connects with you so well is because I believe that we have some sort of psychic connection to our electronics, our cell phone. The phone that I'm talking to you right now, I've owned this phone for 2 years. I've managed to not break this phone. I've had this phone for 2 years. I mean, this phone has me haunting it. And now when you add in, instead of hitting start and selecting speed and having this constant stream of sounds, now I just have my Echo open, and I can open my mind. I can close my eyes, and I can just let randomness, my subconscious, tell me when to touch the screen and where to touch the screen and which direction to move my finger and how long to move my finger. Do I make figure eights? What do I do? Do I think about it? Do I not think about it? These are all things that are impossible to program into an application. This is using the human brain as the CPU that's making the randomness. And that can't be faked or predicted or explained. So, like, if you choose to just touch the screen for 2 seconds and it answers your question in those 2 seconds, what is the math, the odds against that being a coincidence?
Yeah.
There's more stars in the universe, you know? I mean, it's huge. So that's what touch is it's bank A and bank B combined. It's run pretty fast. I tried it with some noise between. I didn't like it. I liked it firing quick. And it seemed to work well, because if it's too quick for you, touch it less. It's the simplest app, I think. You know, it's very, very simple app. One screen, and then you get your reverb controls on another screen, and you have your Echo. And that's what it's about. It's about the physical human connection, a little bit of the Ouija board kind of thing, between the user and their device and the software and who or what or whenever it is that we're talking to.
Exactly.
So it's out for Android. It's only been out for, maybe a week and a half, something like that. It's on Google Play Store. It'll be on Amazon, too. I'm a little bit lazy right now. Amazon's kind of a pain in the butt putting an app on it, so I'll get around to it. It'll be on Amazon. But you can find it on Google Play if you just search Big Beard Studios or EchoVox or EchoVox Touch. But, you know, if you like EchoVox, I think that you'll find that it's the natural progression.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm excited to try it. I haven't picked it up yet, but
it freaked me out.
I definitely want to. It sounds.
It absolutely. I mean, if you need a stamp of approval. It freaked me out, and like I won't be using it again. So it works fine. So I hope that you guys really enjoy it. I think it's the coolest. I'm kind of kicking myself that I didn't do that first, because it's like a no-brainer. But I think people like to put their device down, and so now I mean, I really feel like that kind of, you know, it cinches everything, because there's a lot of, you guys aren't aware who listen to this, there's a lot of different flavors of EchoVox out there. There's EchoVox R, which samples your input, what you're saying, and slices it up and makes it play backwards, and you know, it's like a sound manipulator. There's EchoVox X, which uses IP-based radio stations,
Mm-hmm.
and selects them up, and it's like having 6 ghost boxes running at once. So yeah, there's a few out there, but Touch is the newest, and I think has the potential for. I mean, the people the testers that I put it out to are some people that I consider to be heavy users. You know, people that run ghost tours, or people that run paranormal blogs, or whatever. Just some heavy hitters or whatever. People on TV,
Mm-hmm.
Or TV producers, those type of people, and you know, I'll let them test it out, and everybody had something great to say. So I'm hoping that it really builds up some steam and causes a ruckus.
That's awesome, man. I hope it does as well. Cheryl in the chat said she's been getting some wild responses.
Nice. Oh,
so,
I know Cheryl. Hi, Cheryl.
Yeah, Cheryl's been in here asking some good questions. So 2 more questions real quick before we close it out. One was the video of the creature that walks by. Everyone in the chat was like, can we see it, or can it be shared, or is it a private video? Or
well, it's not on the internet. It's literally just on my girlfriend's phone. Like she had her friend like send it to her forever ago, and we've made every time because my girlfriend breaks phones like you would not believe. So she's had I've had this phone for 2 years. She's probably had 15 phones while I've had this phone. But like we've always made sure that video, it's in her Google Photos or whatever and everything. So we have the video, and I've actually never shared it with anybody, but since I'm in this line of work and everything, her and I have talked about like, oh, I should show it to somebody that knows. But you're the first person who's ever talked to me or expressed interest in the crypto stuff, so I figure it might as well be you. So maybe we'll just make something out of it. So maybe tomorrow you can hit me up on Facebook, and I'll figure out from her how she can get the video, like email it to me, and then I'll show you, and then maybe we can you can put it out on the internet and get opinions, like on your YouTube or something. Maybe we could do something on your YouTube and talk about it or something.
Yeah.
It definitely it deserves to be seen. It's pretty wild, I promise. And my girlfriend has nothing to do with the paranormal, none of that. And her friend does neither. Like no interest in. And once you see the video, you'll see that it doesn't even look like anything that could be faked. It's really wild, really wild.
Wow. I'm excited to see it, and we'll definitely talk more about what you want to do with that and everything.
Sure.
And then the second question, Kim wanted to know, and I already read a little bit about this, but the triangle shape that you use for EchoVox 3, what does that mean, if you want to tell the chat?
If you Google kahuna symbol, just like like Hawaiian, like kahuna, like big kahuna.
Mm-hmm.
A kahuna, that triangle kahuna is just like an old symbol that means energy or protection and or direction. So just go on to Google or Google Images, for that matter, whichever you want, and just search kahuna symbol or kahuna protection symbol. It might even come up if you search protection symbol. It should pop up. So that's how I found it when I wanted to put a logo on it or whatever. I just thought it would be really cool because it was really creepy, because it existed as software before it had a face.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't have an interface, and I didn't know what to make it look like at first. And then the last thing that I did was the logo. And I remember I was like, man, this thing is scary. I don't want people like murdering each other because demons tell them to or whatever. I don't know what to do. So I was like, people were always, back in those days, they were always pushing, Cheryl will remember this because she's been around forever. They'd be pushing protection prayers and, all that kind of stuff on me. So I was like, all right, I'll put a protection symbol on. So I went to Google and I typed in protection symbol. Yeah. And that kahuna thing popped up. It's like something .gif or whatever. That's the one I used. It's there. Nice. It's just a picture off of Google of a spiral triangle. That's kahuna symbol. So there you go. That's the story of the kahuna. And then the Touch has one that's pretty cool. It's like a square. Mm-hmm. It's like the same thing, like a 3D square. It's pretty cool.
Nice. Awesome, man. Well, if you would, let everyone know one more time how they can find all your stuff, and I did put links in the description of the show. But if you want to just
sure, I mean I'm not hard to find. If you go on to just search EchoVox, really, in any of your app stores, iOS, EchoVox on iOS is one of the top 100 paid lifestyle apps on iOS, which is pretty wild.
That's awesome.
Considering how many applications there are in lifestyle on iOS is pretty insane. So it's easy to find. And then YouTube, you can have a lot of fun. If you haven't seen my YouTube channel, I don't really update it anymore. I put a video up on it a few weeks ago that's just from it being used on Paranormal Lockdown, or Nick Broff there saying the host name. There's a video of that, and but there's a lot of videos on there. So just go to YouTube, Big Beard Audio, and if you really want to dig deep, there is SoundClouds, like I said. So search EchoVox or SpiritVox on SoundCloud. There's some great stuff out there. Not just for me either. There's other people. Some of it's way old.
Awesome, man. Well, thanks so much.
And that's it. I don't use social media so much. I got a Facebook page, but I never use it. So that's it. No Twitter or none of that. Just the YouTube and Google or iOS, whatever.
Nice. Well, thanks so much for coming on, man. I really appreciate it, and you definitely told us some wild stuff that is going to have me thinking all night. Before you leave, if you would, and you don't have to, but we always ask the guests if they'll do a wolf howl, just to close it out for the wolf pack. Thank you, man. That was awesome. All right, man. Well, have a great night, man, and I look forward to getting EchoVox Touch and rocking it, man.
Yeah, enjoy it.
All right, man. Thanks so much. Have a good night.
Thank you. Good night, everybody. Thanks for your support.
Awesome. All right, guys. That was Danny Roberge, and what an awesome guest. What an awesome show. I can't wait to use the EchoVox Touch. Definitely pick it up if you guys are searching around the App Store for good paranormal apps. I've used the EchoVox, and I've heard other people use the EchoVox and just get incredible stuff. So, man, what a great show. As always, the reason we do this, to have these awesome guests on and learn about their theories and their opinions and their experiences. So that was definitely a great one. I knew Danny would be really interesting to talk to and have drop some knowledge on us. You can just tell just from looking at him. I can just tell. I'm like, yeah, you just know. I hope to meet him someday, and that'd be cool. So I'm looking forward to EchoVox Touch. Let's see. Next week, I'm not going to be doing a podcast. Next week, I will be on Kat Hobson's show. I will be posting about it on the Facebook. So be on the lookout for that. Anything else? We might do some live streams this weekend. We'll see. We will see. But yeah, Danny was a blast. Awesome dude. Really enjoyed the talk. It flew by. I know we could have kept going. Anyway, guys, I'm going to close it out. I hope everyone has a great rest of the week. I can't wait to show you guys some of the stuff I've been working on, specifically this one current video that I'm working on. I'm putting a lot of work into. So anyway, I will see you guys next week. Huge thanks to Danny Roberge for coming on, talking to us about his EchoVox Touch and all the other awesome stuff. Everyone have a great night.